John Solomon of The Hill, he's been writing about a lot of these tragedies faced by those on the front lines of the border crisis. Anyway, he joins us now. It is amazing. We have seen images now in the last month of Border Patrol agents being pelted with rocks and bottles. And I watched Kamala Harris, question Tom Hoden, the guy that just was recently the head of ICE, and say, well, there's a perception that ICE is just like the Ku Klux Klan. You understand that perception, right? I have a hard time understanding that mentality.
Yeah, no, I wrote a whole column on that. And in fact, I compared Kamala Harris's language to almost exact construction that Senator McCarthy used back in the 50s when he was trying to paint people who were gay or liberal as communists in almost identical sentence structure and tactics. And it got a lot of play and a lot of attention. Listen, the ICE officers I know are the farthest thing from the KKK. They're compassionate. They're CPV border guys that when someone gets stuck in a river or needs a rescue, they jump in and they help. These are not hateful people. They're people who are trying to protect the border and to enforce the law that Congress has put on the books and needs to be enforced. And when we have language like that, we simply don't have an honest debate going on.
But it's even worse when you have a sanctuary city or state. And let me use the case of Grant Ronnebeck. And I know that the 22-year-old kid who was working overnight in a convenience store, and his father's been on this program many, many times before. And, kids trying to raise money so he can go to school, doing the right thing. Nobody wants to work the graveyard shift, but he's doing it. And guy comes in, sticks a gun in his face, wants cigarettes. The poor kid can't get him out fast enough, kills the kid. And then you find out that he had held a woman hostage and sexually assaulted her for a week, had kidnapped this woman and had been in jail, and because of sanctuary laws was never turned over to the authorities to be deported.
Yeah, these are the sort of things that everyday Americans in middle America, in the real part of America that aren't engaged in elitist arguments, these are the stories that really resonate and the concerns they have. Listen, people want more border security. They don't know what it's going to take to get there, but we had a poll on the Hill just recently, and a super vast majority of Americans want increased border security. The president is in line with the vast majority of what people want in America, whether it's a wall or a combination of assets that includes a wall. That's going to be determined by whatever deal he can get. But if he doesn't hold the line, then there's not going to be a deal. It'll be the same conversation we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I remember when I came to town in the 90s and we were talking about fixing immigration. Nothing's happened in 25 years. Something is going to happen now because the president has dug in.
No, I'll tell you what's happened is the Democrats went literally because Donald Trump wants it. They've totally flip-flopped and flailed the position. I mean, when you have Biden, Obama, Hillary, Schumer, Pelosi, and everybody, and even Feinstein and Boxer supporting building a wall, but now it's, I guess, politically not expedient for them to do so, and because Donald Trump wants it, now they want to stop it. Now they're saying it's immoral.
History, but the American people are wise. They're going to rally behind the right decision here when we get there. I think some statistics are going to come out, Sean, in the next couple of weeks. We're doing a little bit of reporting on this that are going to put some new numbers on the table that'll paint even a further picture of the challenges and crises that we have at the border. I think you're going to see a report of massive growth of fentanyl and opioids across the border in the last 6 months. I think there's been a large number of seizures. There's going to be a large number of seizures also at mail facilities that show that these bad perpetrators are taking both the Postal Service and the border in concert to poison our children with these horrible drugs. I think you're going to see new numbers reported on assaults on CPB and ICE officers. I think those numbers are going to be up. I think you're going to hear new numbers on the number of rescues, the number of times CPP people went and tried to rescue a migrant who got themselves in some sort of trouble at the border. These are all going to be numbers that haven't been released before that I think are going to give a more complete picture of what's really going on the border, and I have a high degree of confidence the American public will see the situation for what it is.
All right, again, if people want to call Congress, 202-224-3121. When they say that this is a manufactured crisis, I have a response, a direct response I'm going to be given to the media, the hate Trump media, and hate Trump Democrats tonight. I said at the beginning of this year that my mission, we are going to do the job they will never do because they are locked into this sociopathic, pathological hatred of the president, even when lives are at stake here. But let's first, I want to turn a little bit, Hannity Watch on the deep state, and obviously a story that's not going away. News today that it looks like Rod Rosenstein is expected to step down after the new Attorney General Barr is confirmed. What do you make of that? And from my understanding, Rod Rosenstein really wanted to stick around, and Rod Rosenstein is really nervous that the president may one day release the FISA warrants, especially the fourth warrant, pages 10 through 12, 17 to 34.
That's right.
So he is stepping down. Why?
Well, I think two things. My sources tell me that when Bill Barr was in negotiations with Trump to become Attorney General, he wanted an assurance he could pick his own Attorney General. That's what Deputy Attorney General. That's exactly what you want your Attorney General to do. This department has had so much strife, so much disorganization, such a hard time getting its story straight with Congress. Think of all the evolutions of stories that were given to Congress that turned out to be false. I think the new Attorney General, Bill Barr, if he gets confirmed, should have his own team start fresh, try to rebuild the trust both among the American people and among Congress, and of course even with the president. And that starts by getting rid of someone as controversial. I don't think that Rod Rosenstein is doing this out of the goodness of his heart. I think he's reading the tea leaves and knows his days are numbered. And I think one of the tragedies is that when the Republicans had control of the House, and they still have control of the Senate, no one has yet put Rod Rosenstein under oath to ask the seminal questions.
Well, they tried to.
Yeah, but they didn't get there. I mean, they Congress could have done just what the president's doing on the war. It could have held a much harder line than it did. It could have forced him to testify, and they let it pass. But there are some big questions that Rod Rosenstein should ask. Did he really talk about a plot to remove the president? Did he really read or not read the warrant? Was he aware of exculpatory information kept from the FISA court? Does the Justice Department have a legal obligation to tell the FISA court? He's going to get off if Lindsey Graham doesn't do something incentive.
Well, Lindsey Graham's been very clear. If the Democrats have, their canon of subpoenas, which they appear to be ready to launch, and they're going to do nothing but nonstop investigation of the president over any little matter they can, then he's going to pick it up. One day we will get those 302s. We will get the Gang of Eight information. We will get the FISA applications and this other bucket, if you want to describe the other fourth bucket, if you will, of information.
Yep. Well, the fourth bucket is some emails the FBI were exchanging among each other and with the National Security Division of Justice Department in October before the first FISA warrant in 2016 was issued that show that they were aware of both exculpatory information and problems with their sources. And if that's a fourth bucket. I'm going to add a fifth bucket, Sean, because I've been doing some reporting the last couple of days that hopefully I'll be able to get out in the public pretty soon. I think there are a series of transcripts of the key players that have been, that were demonized in this early on, George Papadopoulos, Carter Page. I believe if those transcripts are released, FBI recordings of these individuals, that we're going to learn even more about how much the FBI knew their case was wrong, how much it was off the mark in the beginning, and yet they continue to persist. So I want to put a fifth bucket on the table because my reporting is beginning to indicate that there are recorded transcripts. All
right, well, put the fifth bucket, and it's going to come out this year. I mean, I know we're busy focusing on the border right now and other issues, but this is all going to be in the forefront sooner than later. Stay right there. John Solomon with us. He's with The Hill. And as we continue with John Solomon of The Hill, John, let me ask one thing. Now that we know that Robert Mueller, in fact, destroyed the text messages with Page and Strzok, which by law, from my understanding, that shouldn't have happened. And number two...
The IG agrees that shouldn't have happened, right? There none of those text messages that were work-related. They're considered government records. They shouldn't have been destroyed, and that's a problem that is going to have to be dealt with. And we're never going to see the ones that of Strzok and Page from the time they worked on the Mueller investigation. They appeared.
But then you add to that what they did to General Flynn. Number one, he was unmasked illegally. Raw intelligence was taken. Then the deputy FBI director at the time called him and McCabe said that he doesn't need a lawyer. And then James Comey brags about the fact that he threw aside all previous protocol with previous administrations, the Obama administration, Bush administration, and he sent FBI agents in specifically. They already had the transcript to set a perjury trap for General Flynn after they said don't have a lawyer. And we saw that blow up in the courtroom, and the judge went nuts and even accused Flynn of being a traitor at one point, which he apologized for later. But it sounds like he wants to throw Flynn in jail over something that was illegally done to him.
Well, one of the things that I had a column on this about a week ago, Sean, that really caught my attention is that the first event where Mike Flynn is engaged with Russia in a way that was portrayed by the media as sinister, bad, treasonous, whatever you want to call it, was this event he went to with the RT, where he spoke with, or sat next to Vladimir Putin and, got a small speaking fee. It turns out he was coordinating that trip with his old employer, the DIA. He self-disclosed it in advance. He got a defensive briefing to prepare him for what would go on there, make sure he was not compromised. And then he came back and delivered whatever intelligence he learned from that meeting. When you know that meeting actually was to the benefit of the United States instead of some treasonous thing, and you look at the reporting 2 years ago versus what we now have in the fact base, it is really extraordinary how distorted the tale of Mike Flynn was. And it's part of the reason I suspect why Robert Mueller, in the end of the day, didn't ask for any prison time for Mike Flynn, even though Mike Flynn has admitted or...
Yeah, but now we have to have the judge was so pissed off. I wouldn't trust any of that.
He may calm down. Listen, part of the reason they adjourned was for everybody to take a deep breath, and I think the judge knows he made a mistake. That's why he apologized, and maybe the passage of time will have a different impact there.
Yeah, this is how we trick 33-year service members, 3-star generals. That's what we do. We tell them don't use a lawyer, and then, by the way, we'll trick you into talking to us after we illegally surveilled you.
One lesson that everyone should learn: if the FBI approaches you, always consult your lawyer before talking.
Oh, you can. I mean, it's unbelievable. All right, John Solomon, thank you.